Well, the past year has had some pretty unusual effects on law enforcement and public safety, Brandon.
Yeah, the pandemic, the police protests, an increase in violent crime. Investigative reporter Morgan Lowe tells us why some researchers are pretty worried right now. This one-year spike could become a trend.
Phoenix Police Department, can you come out for a second?
This is body cam video from March of last year showing Phoenix police officers inside a home in the northwest part of town, trying to talk down a tenant who's behaving strangely, scaring his roommates, and refusing to leave.
Devin, I'm right here.
That man, 22-year-old Jacob McElveen, asks to speak to the person in charge. Commander Greg Carnicle heads up the stairs. Then McElveen opens fire on Carnicle and two other officers. Carnicle died from his injuries, a 31-year veteran of the Phoenix Police Department who left behind a wife and 4 adult children. This was one high-profile example of a violent year in the Valley.
We are tracking breaking news tonight at 9. Police are at a home in Mesa after a report of a shooting there.
And we just got word that the boy died from blunt force trauma.
This is truly a devastating domestic violence investigation.
According to our analysis of crime calls and crime reports, several Valley cities saw dramatic increases in homicides and aggravated assaults last year. As examples, Chandler saw a 133% increase in homicides. Phoenix saw a 46% increase. Scottsdale, Mesa, and Maricopa County also saw significant increases.
I think the thing we have to first start at is, 1 year is not a trend. 1 year could be an anomaly.
Andrew Lefevre is the executive director of the Arizona Criminal Justice Commission. He says the pandemic and social unrest likely played a significant role in what we saw last year, but he cautions against rushing to judgment.
And maybe it ends up being it was COVID or it was a combination of factors. We need to not make rush decisions based on 1 year's worth of data unless there's clearly is something that comes out that says this happened because of X.
This isn't just a Phoenix problem or an Arizona problem. The spike in homicides and violent crimes also occurred in cities across the country. This report, published by the National Commission on COVID-19 and Criminal Justice, examined violent crime in 34 cities. It found that homicides increased last year in 29 of them.
What's happening seems to be happening all around the country.
Thomas Abt is the co-author of that study. He says the largest increase in homicides was between young men in urban areas, underserved areas with little hope or opportunity. But he argues that political and community leaders can take action to curb the spike before it becomes a trend. The report makes 3 recommendations: beat the COVID outbreak quickly, restore community trust in police, and implement some programs that are proven to reduce urban violence.
There are concrete policies that drive violence down. If you don't do them, you'll have higher levels of violence. And if you do implement them, you'll have lower levels of violence. And so I'd really just like the public to know that there are solutions available and that they should demand them.
Not all crime went up last year. Most property crimes, like burglary and theft, dropped across the country. Here in Phoenix, burglaries dropped substantially. Now, the final numbers are not in, but it's looking like it could be about a 25% drop. Brandon?
Morgan, if we can just take a moment here and talk more in depth about those homicide numbers. Can anyone out there answer the question, why did they increase?
Yeah, Brandon, that is the tough one. I looked at some reports that indicated it might be domestic violence had risen during the pandemic, but that doesn't account for the increase in murders. Thomas Abt, who I interviewed for this story, said that biggest increase is in young men killing young men in underserved areas. Why that's happening? I spoke to U.S. Marshal David Gonzalez tonight. He said that last summer they saw an increase in gang violence, at least here in the Phoenix area. He thinks that those gang members may have been emboldened by anti-police sentiment, but this is something researchers are going to be studying for some time.
It'll be really fascinating. I know you're going to stay on top of this story. I would love for us to do another story 1 year from now to see if this trend continues this year or if, in fact, Morgan, it tapers off. Solid reporting tonight. Thank you very much.